It is Wednesday, June 26, 2013. My name is Dale Tafoya, and this is another episode and a new era for Athletics Talk Now, formerly known as Athletics After Dark. Yes, we have a new name, but we're covering the same subject, the Oakland A's, and this is podcast number 111. We want to welcome you, A's fans around the world listening on YouTube, iTunes, our RSS feed, and our website, which is athleticstalknow.com. We're a podcast and blog that celebrates the past and embraces the future of A's baseball. And our first guest joining us to celebrate our new name and era for Athletics Talk Now was the heart and soul of the A's pitching staff in the late 80s and early 90s, and one of the most intimidating pitchers of his era. He's the last major league pitcher to win 20-plus games 4 consecutive seasons from 1987 to 1990. Only he and Catfish Hunter accomplished that for the A's. Dave Stewart, you pitched a no-hitter. You started an all-star game. You, of course, won 20 games 4 straight seasons. You were a World Series MVP. You were a perfect 8-0 in ALCS play. When you reflect on your career, is there one single accomplishment where you say, hey, that's a kind of a neat feat to have under my belt?
Not really. When I think about, the accomplishments, it really comes down for me, being dependable. When our team would send me out, for first game World Series, I think that the guys felt very, very comfortable that we had an opportunity to win, a chance to win, and for me, that was the most important feat for me in my tenure with the A's.
And, of course, after being released by the Phillies in the middle of 1986, you come home, you sign with the A's for $65,000. You were 29 years old, struggling, kind of bouncing from the Dodgers to Texas to Philadelphia. Suddenly, the following season in 1987, you're a 20-game winner. And many say the turning point for you was developing the forkball, maybe coming home to Oakland, or just a maturity level at that point. What was the biggest factor, Dave, that turned you into one of the best pitchers of your era?
Well, I always felt that, especially with the Dodgers, in my period of time with them, if you look at the numbers and, games pitched and just the workload that I carried for them out of the bullpen and sometimes spot starting, my years with the Dodgers were pretty good years. Where I suffered problems is leaving the Dodgers and going to Texas and then being bounced from Texas to Philadelphia. Which, in my opinion, that was poor coaching and really not getting an opportunity to really learn about myself and get my turns. So, relationship with Dave Duncan to be starting every 5th day, and once I started on the 5th day, sometimes on the 4th day, it gave me an opportunity to learn a little bit more about myself. It gave me an opportunity to learn a little bit more about my trade, what it took to be a starting pitcher. When I was in Texas, I had forkball at the time was discouraged by management not to use it. With Dave Duncan, it was a totally different story. He encouraged me to. He made it clear that he wanted to have weapons, and from that point on, I was able to develop that pitch a little bit more with Dunk's help.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're known for your intimidating death stare on the mound toward home plate, and to many, that stare gave you an edge before you even threw a pitch. Behind that glare in those eyes, Stu, what were you thinking and what were you trying to convey from the mound?
For me, it was a process of what I had done with a hitter, what a hitter had done against me, and what I was feeling that given day. When you take the mound on a given day, your stuff's going to be a little bit different. And my bread and butter was, first pitch fastball command, and then everything else after that. And so, when I got on the mound, I've got all that going on, the situational pitching and what a hitter's done to me versus what I've done against them. There's just a lot.
Sure. We hear so many of today's pitchers, Dave, breaking down with arm problems or elbow problems. And your career, especially during your time with the A's, shouted durability. You regularly led the league in games started, innings pitched, complete games. You were that guy Tony La Russa could count on to be in that mound every fifth day. Why are so many of today's young pitchers breaking down, and what made you so durable? And how often did you even pitch with some discomfort?
Well, I mean, when you to answer your last question, if you make 36, 37 starts in a season, I think a couple of seasons I had 38, you're going to probably go out there 10 to 15 games and feel absolutely outstanding. That doesn't mean that the stuff's going to come out your hand outstanding, but you feel outstanding. Today's workload and today's pitchers, we're in a different time now. They're not asked to do as much at the minor league level before they get to the major league level when it comes to innings pitched and games started. And so once you get to the big leagues, you're not asked to do as much um, either. And so, I mean, today's game is just a different game. It's a game where you rely now on your middle relievers and your setup guys and your closers to finish games. Now, we had a great closer in Dennis Eckersley, obviously a Hall of Famer, but I wasn't dependent on Dennis to finish games for me. I wasn't looking to Gene Nelson in the middle area to bail me out of a game, or Rick Honeycutt. My approach when I started games was to finish games, and I felt that the closer you got to that last out, the opportunity you were going to have to win a baseball game, and that was my middle approach, and that's how I went about my business.
And reflecting on your time in Oakland, Dave, and those magical years from '88 to '92, we saw new A's ownership around 1995 when real estate developers Steve Schott and Ken Hoffman purchased the team from the Haas family. And we saw many A's greats, such as yourself, start to leave, the Steinbachs, the Lansfords, and the Eckersleys. But what was it like playing under the ownership group of the Haas family, Levi Strauss?
No, there's no better ownership than Walter Haas. I remember many occasions, when we needed a player um, to get to that next level or that next stage. We had that player. Walter was competitive. He was a very, very good man. Very, very good to the players. In my opinion, were the Yankees of the '80s at that time, '80s and the '90s. I mean, he did everything that he could in his power to make things comfortable for us as a ball club and to give us every opportunity to win.
And we hear the word chemistry or lack thereof a great deal in professional sports, Dave. And whether a team has chemistry on the field or in the clubhouse, and we hear about those A's teams in the early '70s where, with Reggie, Rudy, and Sal Bando, and there were fights in the clubhouse. Then they go on the field and kick some butt, and they fight and they overmatch their opponent on the field. Tell me about the chemistry the A's had during your heyday, and who were the key characters and what made it work.
I thought overall we had a great clubhouse. Obviously with all teams, you're going to have your ups and your downs, and you're going to have your good and your bad. I thought that we were a very, very, very good ball club when it came to doing things as a team, being together and playing together. We were, I think, the blueprint for that. Dave Parker became a key element for that. Dave Henderson, Connie Lansford, Rickey Henderson. I mean, we had so many guys, and Tony La Russa had a process where he always called it, I'm going to let the players police each other, and we did that. I mean, there were different guys in different areas. Dennis Eckersley for the bullpen guys, me for the starting rotation. I mean, we had a lot of guys that helped make things run smoothly.
I have a question for you from one of our listeners on Twitter, Stu, and John English 27 is asking that he's always been curious how you felt being a part of a dynasty with so many Oakland guys. Like Eck was born in Oakland, even Rickey was born in Oakland, so were you, and Carney Lansford was from San Jose, I believe. How special was it to know that there were a lot of local guys that were part of this great era of A's baseball?
But I got to be honest. I never really even thought about it that way. I knew Rickey and I grew up playing and competing against each other, and for me, that was special in itself, and it's a bond that we've had since we were younger, and we still carry now past retirement. Rickey is one of my best friends in this world. Actually, I was surprised that Dennis was from just down the road, because I never competed against Dennis. Never heard about him when I was in high school. And Kearney, as you said, was in San Jose. Never competed against him. Never heard about him. But the bond with Rickey was special.
Right, and a big buzz right now as far as the A's organization in baseball is the obvious need for a new stadium. We've all grew in the Oakland Coliseum. Grew up in the Oakland Coliseum, but this franchise and the fans deserve a new stadium, Stu. And in 1990, the A's drew 2.9 million fans, which ranked third in all of baseball. Currently, the A's rank 23rd among 30 teams, and they're winning, and more fans are attending the games. The owner does not want to build in Oakland, and he wants to move to San Jose. However, that's the San Francisco Giants territory, so there's a battle going on. I'm not sure how informed you are of everything that's going on in the stadium, but what's your take on this dilemma, Stu?
Well, I mean, I've kept up with it, and I think part of the issue and part of the problem in the Bay Area in supporting the team as far as attendance is concerned is you've got an owner that's constantly talking about leaving, and not really supporting the tradition of the organization. The Oakland A's have, for years, 72, 73, 74, back-to-back championships in our period of time, 88 to 90, where we had back-to-back years where we had an opportunity to win 3 World Series. There's great tradition there, and when you speak about moving a ball club out of an area where you've established tradition and where you've been a part of a community, I think that it's difficult for the fans to grab a hold of that, because basically what you're saying is in a short period of time, if you get an okay, you're going to leave them. And so why would you grab onto that? Why would you support it when eventually the A's may not be there?
And let's talk about your influence on the game as a whole, Stu. The great Yankee pitcher CC Sabathia, who grew up in the Bay Area and watched you pitch, tells the story of you in 1989 paying a visit to the Boys and Girls Club in Vallejo, California, to speak to some of the kids. Included in that group was a 9-year-old boy named CC Sabathia. And to this day, he talks about how that visit inspired him to want to be a big league pitcher. Stu, aside from being one of the elite pitchers of your era, when I mention Dave Stewart, a trailblazer for the African-American pitcher, what comes to mind?
I was blessed. I was really, really blessed with the opportunity to be a major league player for 16 years. And the one thing that I always felt I needed to do, what my obligation was as a major league player, was to give back to the community that had given back so much to me. I grew up as a young kid in East Oakland, not far from the Coliseum, going to the Oakland Boys and Girls Clubs on 87th and East 14th Ossian Car Club, and sometimes visiting the Boys Club on Market. And when I was growing up and receiving those things, Young America Sports, Little League, Babe Ruth and Connie Mack, Pop Warner football, those were all things and opportunities that were given to me as a young man. My first thought when I became a major league player was that I was going to do the same thing. I was going to give back to the community and get involved. And I can't remember exactly the name of the man who asked me to come out and speak that day to the kids out in Vallejo, but I jumped on the opportunity to be able to speak at the Boys and Girls Club. As I said, being a young man that had grown up in the Boys Club, it was a dream come true for me.
Mm-hmm. And not so away from some of the subjects, too. Not sure if you saw the big brawl with the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. You're an agent, so you represent Matt Kemp, but how surprised were you to see the once mild-mannered kid, Mark McGwire, your former teammate, be almost at the center of it? Because obviously he was mild-mannered as a rookie when he came up with the A's.
As you get older, and then you become you become the middle of the chemistry of the team versus being just a part of it. You take on different responsibilities, and one of the things that I was real proud to see, and was that Mac was a major part of that, and whether it was peacemaking or establishing the fact that his team is not going to be run over, I was proud to see it. It just goes to show that with the maturity and, I'd like to say the foundation that Carney Lanchford, and I think that I was a part of that. Mark was one of those guys that Carney and I took under our wing when he was a young player, and maybe some of us rubbed off on him.
That's Dave Stewart. I'm Dale Tafoya. Stu, thank you for joining the podcast, and thank you for creating so many memories for A's fans to reflect and celebrate.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.